She said it like a dare. Are you jealous? That smirk, half playful, half cruel, was the last flicker of the woman I once adored. I looked her straight in the eye and said, "No, I'm finished." The words sat between us, silent and heavy, like the last snowflakes before spring melts them away. For a second, even she didn't know what to say. Maybe she expected shouting, a scene, something she could twist into proof that I still cared. But there was nothing left inside to ignite. Her name was Claire. 5 years together. 3 years married. She was the kind of woman people called magnetic. She walked into a room, and everyone paid attention. I used to believe I was lucky just to stand beside her. Maybe I was for a time. Before the teasing, the comments, the little digs she laughed off, started draining me drop by drop. It didn't begin with big betrayals. It never does. It was the small humiliations, friends over for dinner, and she'd joke about me finally learning how to dress myself. Or I'd mention my promotion, and she'd sigh and say, "Let's not pretend you're running the country." Always with that tone, affection wrapped in insult. I told myself it was just her humor. That's who Claire was. Clever, sarcastic. Except somewhere along the line, it stopped feeling like a game. I'd watch her smiling at her phone late at night, face lit by the screen's glow, and ask who she was chatting with. "Just Ryan from work." She'd say, "Don't be jealous." Jealous. That word felt like a trap. The moment I questioned anything, I lost. Because she'd twist it around, make me look insecure, paranoid, controlling. So I swallowed it over and over. Until tonight. We were at a coworker's birthday dinner. One of her friends. I didn't want to go, but she insisted. I sat there while she leaned in close to Ryan, laughing too loudly at every line he spoke. The place was packed, music booming, but her laughter, sharp and familiar, cut straight through. And then she touched his arm, light, quick, casual. But my stomach flipped in that quiet, unmistakable way that tells you the truth your mind has been trying to avoid. When I looked at her, she saw it. That's when she smiled, that cruel little smile. "Are you jealous?" she asked. Everyone else kept talking, no one noticing the silent war happening across the table. And I said it calmly, simply, like a verdict. "No. I'm done." She blinked, confused, maybe even afraid. She thought I was bluffing. I wasn't. I paid the bill for both of us and walked out before she could speak another word. I didn't slam the door, didn't look back, just stepped into the night, city lights shining on wet asphalt. My hands were trembling, not from rage, but from release, like finally putting down something heavy I'd carried too long. Driving home, I left the radio off. Didn't need it. My thoughts were loud on their own. I kept seeing the man I'd turned into, careful with every sentence, trying to be funny enough, calm enough, successful enough, all to avoid that smirk of hers. And how small that man had become beneath her quiet cruelty. When I got home, I poured a drink. The silence felt strange, empty, but clean. I realized I hadn't heard silence like that in years. Claire's laughter used to echo through every room, bright and sharp. But now, it was just me, a glass tapping the table, and the slow sound of my own breathing. For the first time in years, I wasn't jealous. I wasn't furious. I was free. The next morning, Claire came home. I heard the door unlock around 9, her heels knocking softly on the hardwood. She didn't say my name, just moved from room to room like she was checking to see if I was still there. I stayed at the table, coffee cooling in front of me. When she finally stood in the doorway, she looked different, less polished. Mascara smeared, hair pulled into a loose knot. The smirk was gone. "So," she said quietly, "you just walked out?" I nodded. "Yeah, I did." Her lips tightened, like she wanted to argue, but couldn't find a place to begin. "You embarrass me," she finally said. "You could have at least talked to me before running off." I let out a small laugh. Talk to you, Claire? I've been talking for years. You just never heard a word. She folded her arms, eyes sharp. Oh, please. You're being dramatic. You always take everything too seriously. You know I was just joking, I finished. She fell silent. The word floated there, thin and bitter. For once, she had nothing clever loaded behind it. I stood, walked past her to the counter, and set my keys down. You turned everything that mattered to me into a punchline, Claire. My job, my feelings, even my dignity. And I let you because I thought, maybe that was love. That if I proved myself enough, you'd stop needing to make me small. Her expression shifted, part guilt, part defensiveness. You're overthinking this, she whispered. You've always been sensitive. Yeah, I said. Sensitive enough to finally feel when something's dead. For a moment, we just stood there. The space between us was heavier than any shouting match we ever had. No yelling, no drama, just the quiet realization that we'd come to the end. I didn't cheat, she said suddenly, voice shaking. If that's what you're assuming, I know, I answered. But that's not the point. You stopped being with me long before you stopped sleeping beside me. Her shoulders dropped. So what now? I move on, I said simply. You can keep the place. I'll take my things and leave. She stared, stunned. You're serious? I was serious about us too, I replied. That didn't stop you from turning me into a joke. I grabbed my bag and headed for the door. Behind me, I heard her voice crack for the first time in years. Lucas, wait. Can we at least talk about this? I turned back and looked at her. We did. You just treated every sentence like a setup for a laugh. Then I walked out. It's strange how quiet endings can be when they've been coming for years. No dramatic finale, no shouting, just the soft click of a door closing. The first few days felt surreal. I stayed in a cheap motel outside town, just long enough to clear my head. My phone buzzed now and then, messages from her, half apologies wrapped in confusion. I didn't answer. Sometimes silence is kinder than explanations. I started walking in the evenings. No goal, just movement. The air felt different, sharper, cleaner. I realized I hadn't noticed the world outside my own unhappiness in a long while. I thought about all the times she said I was too sensitive, too serious, too jealous. But sensitivity isn't weakness. It's awareness. It's knowing when love turns into control, when laughter turns cruel, when a home feels like a stage instead of a shelter. A month later, I signed a lease on a tiny apartment downtown. Nothing fancy. Bare walls, a crooked window that let in too much sun. But it was mine. Peace didn't roar. It whispered. And, for the first time, the whisper was enough. Sometimes when I'm out grabbing coffee, I see couples who look like we once did. The early days, the warmth, the belief that it would always stay that way. I smile, not out of anger, but with the quiet kind of gratitude that only comes after losing something. Because now I understand. Love isn't proven by endurance. It isn't about who can absorb the most pain in silence. It's about being seen, respected, and chosen every day. Claire once asked if I was jealous. Maybe I was once. But jealousy fades when you remember your own value. When I look back, I realized what I really was tired. Tired of defending my heart to someone who already decided. It was a joke. And when I said I'm done, I didn't mean angry. I meant free.